What happens when your silence doesn't create the impact you were hoping for? You pull back, go quiet, and wait for that shift. The moment they notice your absence, feel the weight of your silence, and start questioning what they've lost. But what if that moment never comes? What if they continue on, untouched and unbothered, as if you were never there? It's a crushing realization, isn't it? That silence, which is supposed to be this powerful tool, feels more like a failed attempt to make them see your value. But maybe it's not the silence that's failing. Maybe it's the way we've misunderstood its purpose all along. If that resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. Together, we'll uncover the truths you need to reclaim your power and build a life of strength and purpose. So today, we're breaking down one of the toughest questions many of you have faced. What do you do when silence doesn't make them miss you? Because let's be real, silence is often preached as the ultimate move. Step back, disappear, and they'll come running, right? But what if silence isn't about them at all? What if it's not about their reaction, but about your transformation? That's what we're going to uncover today. Let's challenge the assumption right here, right now. Silence is not a magic wand. It's not a spell you cast to make someone suddenly long for you or regret their actions. Silence, at its core, isn't about creating longing in someone else. It's about creating space for yourself to grow. Think about that for a second. All this time, you've been waiting for them to notice your absence. But have you even noticed your own presence? Have you been using the silence to evolve, to rediscover yourself? Or have you been stuck in a loop of hoping, waiting, and overthinking? Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that sink in. The strength of your silence doesn't come from what they do or don't feel. It comes from how you choose to use it. If your silence is rooted in the expectation that they'll reach out, miss you, or suddenly see your worth, then you're not practicing strength. You're practicing fear. Fear that without their acknowledgement, you might not be enough. But here's the hard truth. Fear is a liar. It convinces you to tie your worth to their reaction when your worth has nothing to do with them at all. Imagine silence as a seed planted in the ground. If you plant it in rich, fertile soil and give it care, it grows into something meaningful, a life filled with strength, confidence, and purpose. But if you plant it in barren soil, expecting it to flourish without action or intention, it dies. Silence works the same way. It only grows into something powerful when it's paired with your inner work. If it's just a pause in the hope they'll notice, it fades without a trace. Now here's where the shift happens. Stop asking why they don't miss you. Start asking why you're still waiting for them to. That's the real question, isn't it? Why is their validation still the measuring stick for your value? Because when silence doesn't make them miss you, it's not a failure. It's a wake-up call. A call to redirect your focus away from them and toward yourself. Ask yourself, am I using this silence to grow, to rediscover my passions, my peace, my purpose, or am I just holding my breath, hoping they'll notice? Here's the reality. People don't always notice what's freely given. Like sunlight, it's taken for granted until it's gone. But you can't force someone to appreciate what they don't have the depth to see, and that's okay, because their recognition was never the goal. The goal is to use this silence as a period of transformation, to become undeniable, not to them, but to yourself. Here's your affirmation for today. I release the need to be noticed. I focus on becoming undeniable. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments to claim it, because that's where your power lies, not in their reaction, but in your growth. And stay tuned, because what comes next is the real game changer. We're diving into why longing can't be forced and how to create a life so full and grounded that their absence becomes irrelevant. This isn't about being missed. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to be. Let's keep building. Number 1, the illusion of being missed. Let's start with a hard truth. Missing someone isn't about silence. It's not about stepping back, going quiet, and hoping your absence will do all the work. That's the lie we tell ourselves, that if we just disappear, they'll suddenly wake up one day, overwhelmed by the void we've left behind. But here's the thing, silence alone doesn't create longing. Missing someone is about the emotional imprint you left while you were present. If that imprint wasn't deep enough, no amount of silence will change that. Let me ask you this. If the version of you they knew was sitting across from you right now, would you miss that person? Be honest. Would you miss the version of you that constantly tried too hard, that bent over backward for their approval, that didn't fully value their own worth? Because here's the kicker. If you wouldn't miss that version of you, why would they? That's the gut check most people don't want to face. But it's not a punishment, it's an opportunity. You see, we often romanticize the idea of being missed. We cling to this notion that our absence should automatically create longing, as if it's some natural law of the universe. But it's not. Missing isn't about someone simply not being there. It's about realizing the unique value that person brought when they were there. If that value wasn't fully present because you were too busy proving yourself or chasing their attention, then your silence won't stir the kind of reaction you're hoping for. Think of it this way. Silence without substance is like wind without weight. It might stir a few leaves, but it fades as quickly as it comes. On the other hand, when your presence carried depth, when it brought calm in their chaos, strength in their weakness, or light in their darkness, your absence feels different. It leaves a space that can't be easily filled, but that only happens when the version of you they knew was grounded in confidence, self-respect, and authenticity. Here's where fear sneaks in. You might think, but I gave everything I had, I cared, I tried. Why doesn't that count for something? It's not that your effort didn't matter. It's that effort, when it's rooted in insecurity or a need for validation, often overshadows the value you were trying to bring. People can sense when your actions come from a place of fear of losing them, fear of not being enough, and it clouds the deeper connection you're trying to create. This is why facing the illusion of being missed is so difficult. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself that might have shown up in a way you're not proud of. It asks you to question whether you were truly living as your best self, or if you were shrinking, overgiving, or waiting for someone else to validate your worth. That kind of self-reflection isn't easy. It's uncomfortable, even painful. But it's necessary, because the only way to create a presence that lingers after you're gone is to become someone you would miss. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." That's the shift. Instead of worrying about why they don't miss you, shift your focus to becoming someone whose absence would undeniably be felt. Ask yourself, what value am I bringing to the lives of others? Am I showing up as the best version of myself, or am I hiding behind fear and doubt? Picture this. Two people step back from a relationship. One was inconsistent, insecure, or overly dependent on the other's validation. Their absence feels like relief. The other was grounded, authentic, and brought a sense of strength and stability to the dynamic. Their absence feels like a loss. Which one do you think is missed? The difference isn't in the silence. It's in the substance of who they were when they were present. So how do you create that kind of presence? It starts with building substance in your life. Focus on your growth, physically, mentally, emotionally. Pursue passions that excite you, strengthen relationships that uplift you, and create a routine that brings out the best in you. When you become someone who radiates confidence and purpose, your presence becomes undeniable. And when you eventually step back, your absence carries that same weight. But here's the twist. This isn't about making them miss you. It's about showing up for yourself in a way that makes you proud, regardless of whether or not they ever notice. Their reaction is secondary to your transformation. And when you stop seeking their validation, something incredible happens. You become someone who no longer needs to be missed. Metaphorically, it's like becoming sunlight. Most people don't stop to appreciate the warmth of the sun every day. It's just there, constant, reliable. But when the sun sets, its absence is felt. Its light, its warmth, its presence can't be replaced. That's the kind of impact you should aim for, not because you're demanding it, but because the value you bring is impossible to ignore. Here's your affirmation for today. I focus on becoming someone I would miss, not on being missed by others. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments to remind yourself and inspire others to do the same. Let it be your declaration, not to them, but to yourself, that you are committed to showing up as the best version of you. And stay tight, because next, we'll dive into why longing can't be forced and how to stop tying your silence to their reaction. This isn't about playing games, it's about rewriting the script entirely. Let's keep building. Number 2, why longing can't be forced. Let's be honest, missing someone is not something you can force. It's not a response you can manipulate with silence or calculated moves. It's a natural reaction to recognizing value, something that lingers in their thoughts, a presence they can't replace. The truth is, if someone doesn't miss you, it's not because you're unworthy. It might be because they never truly felt the depth of your presence to begin with. And that says more about them than it does about you. Here's the mistake most people make. They think silence is a trigger. They believe that pulling back will automatically spark a sense of longing. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you missed something that didn't leave an impression on you? Silence doesn't create longing out of thin air. It doesn't plant something that wasn't there to begin with. It only amplifies the connection that already existed. And if they don't feel that pull in your absence, it doesn't mean you're not valuable. It means they either couldn't see your worth or never slowed down enough to appreciate it. Think about it this way. You can't force a shadow to appear. A shadow only forms when the light is strong enough. The same goes for longing. If the version of you they experienced didn't shine with authenticity, confidence, and presence, then your absence won't cast the kind of shadow you're hoping for. That's not a reflection of failure. It's a signal to reassess how you've been showing up in their life and, more importantly, your own. You might feel tempted to double down, to wait longer, to pull back even further, or to do something drastic to get their attention. But here's where many people fall into the trap. They confuse silence with strategy. They treat it like a game, one designed to make someone else feel something. But longing doesn't work that way. It can't be engineered. You can't control how someone feels or whether they'll recognize your value. What you can control is the energy you bring into your silence and the person you become in the process. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are tied to making someone miss you, your energy will reflect that longing. It'll feel like noise, even in your quiet moments. But when your thoughts are tied to growth, when your silence is about rediscovering your strength, rebuilding your confidence, and creating a life you love, that's when it gains power. Longing can't be forced, but your presence can be so impactful that it naturally leaves a mark. Here's the shift. Stop focusing on whether they miss you and start focusing on becoming someone they can't ignore. not through manipulation, but through transformation. Picture someone who steps back, not to provoke a reaction, but to pour their energy into their own growth. They're hitting the gym, pursuing goals, learning new skills, and reconnecting with people who uplift them. Their silence isn't empty, it's full of motion, progress, and purpose. Now tell me, which silence leaves a stronger impression? The one rooted in waiting, or the one rooted in becoming? This is where it gets real. Longing is their reaction, not your goal. Your goal is to build a life that's so rich, so grounded, so full of purpose that their response, or lack of it, becomes irrelevant. Imagine your silence as a quiet yet powerful statement. I'm not here to chase, I'm here to thrive. That's the kind of presence that doesn't beg to be noticed. It demands it naturally, without a single word. And if they still don't feel it, that's not on you. Some people lack the awareness to see the value in front of them until it's gone. Others may never see it at all. But their blindness doesn't diminish your light. It doesn't erase the growth you've achieved, the strength you've built, or the presence you've cultivated. Let their inability to miss you be a reminder, not of your insufficiency, but of their limitations. So here's the practical advice. Shift your focus inward. Instead of wondering why they don't feel your absence, start asking yourself what you can create in this silence. Focus on building a presence so impactful that whether they notice or not, it leaves an undeniable mark on your life. Take up space, not in their mind, but in your own world. That's where your power lies, not in being missed, but in becoming so fulfilled that their recognition is no longer necessary. Here's your affirmation for today. I don't wait to be missed. I become someone who leaves an undeniable mark. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments to declare your shift in focus, your commitment to building something extraordinary, and stay tight, because what's coming next will take this transformation even further. We'll explore how to redirect your energy toward building a life that not only commands respect, but also radiates confidence and purpose. Let's keep going. Number 3, the power of emotional independence. Let's get real. Silence doesn't work if you're still emotionally tied to their validation. You can go quiet, pull back, and disappear. But if your mind is still circling around questions like, are they thinking about me? Do they miss me yet? Then you haven't truly let go. You're still tethered, still anchored to their response, and that anchor is keeping you stuck in place. Emotional independence, that's cutting the rope. It's the first step toward true freedom. The freedom to move forward, to grow, and to thrive without needing anyone else's acknowledgement. Think of emotional independence as setting sail. Imagine you're on a ship that's been docked for too long. You've stayed tied to the harbor, unable to explore open waters because the anchor is weighing you down. That anchor is your need for their validation. It's the thing that keeps you from moving forward, from discovering what's out there waiting for you. But the moment you cut that anchor, everything changes. You're no longer stuck. You're free to chart your own course, to sail toward your own destination, and to leave the harbor behind. Here's the truth. Emotional independence isn't about not caring. It's about caring for yourself first. It's about recognizing that your value doesn't come from someone else's reaction to you. It comes from how you show up for yourself, how you nurture your own growth, and how you create a life that feels meaningful, regardless of who's watching. But here's where it gets hard. Letting go of the need to be missed is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront the part of you that's still seeking external validation, the part that's afraid to stand alone. That fear can be paralyzing. You might think, if I let go completely, does that mean they'll forget about me? Will I fade away? But let me ask you this. Is holding on to that anchor really keeping you afloat, or is it just keeping you trapped? because true strength comes from knowing you can let go and still be whole, still be steady, still be enough. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's emotional independence in a nutshell. It's taking back control of your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy. It's recognizing that you can't control whether they miss you, but you can control how you show up for yourself. So how do you start cutting the anchor? Begin by redirecting your focus inward. Ask yourself, what brings me joy? What makes me feel alive? Rediscover passions you've set aside, whether it's painting, writing, cooking, or playing music. Fill your days with activities that excite you, challenge you, and remind you of what makes you unique. Emotional independence grows when you invest in yourself. Another powerful step: build routines that ground you. Create a morning ritual that sets the tone for your day. Meditation, journaling, exercise, or even just sitting quietly with your coffee. These small habits create a sense of stability, a foundation that doesn't rely on anyone else's presence. When you feel grounded, you're less likely to be shaken by their absence. And most importantly, stop waiting for their reaction. Stop checking your phone. Stop replaying old conversations. Stop tying your worth to whether or not they acknowledge your silence. Instead, focus on building a life so full and vibrant that their validation becomes irrelevant. Think of it like this. If you're constantly looking over your shoulder, waiting for someone to follow you, you're not really moving forward. But when you focus on your own path, on creating a future that excites you, you naturally leave behind what no longer serves you. Emotional independence isn't about ignoring your feelings. It's about owning them. It's about saying, I'm allowed to want connection, but I refuse to need validation to feel whole. That's where your power lies. When you no longer depend on someone else's attention to feel valuable, you become unstoppable. You become the captain of your own ship, navigating life on your own terms. Here's your affirmation for today. I release the need for validation and trust in my own strength. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments as a reminder to yourself and others that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's recognition. It's rooted in who you are. And stay tight, because next we'll talk about how to turn this emotional independence into a presence so strong it leaves an undeniable mark. This is where the real shift happens. Let's keep building. Number 4. Why silence alone isn't enough. Silence alone isn't enough. It's a common misconception. This idea that simply stepping back, going quiet, and waiting will magically shift the dynamic. But silence without the right intention behind it is nothing more than an empty pause. It's static, motionless, and easy to overlook. True silence, the kind that leaves a lasting impression, isn't about absence. It's about what you're creating during that absence. Without action, silence fades into the background. With action, it becomes a force of transformation. Imagine silence as a blank canvas. If you leave it untouched, it's just a piece of empty space waiting for something to give it life. But when you pick up a brush, when you start painting bold strokes, layering colors, and creating depth, it becomes art. It becomes something meaningful, something powerful. Silence works the same way. If you treat it as a time of inactivity, a waiting period for someone else to notice your absence, it stays blank. But if you use it as an opportunity to build, grow, and redefine yourself, it transforms into something unforgettable. Here's the hard truth. Silence doesn't work if it's passive. It doesn't carry weight if it's rooted in waiting for someone else's reaction. If your silence is simply a pause, holding your breath for them to reach out or recognize your worth, it's hollow. But if your silence is filled with motion, if it reflects inner transformation, progress, and purpose, it speaks louder than words ever could. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let that sink in. The obstacle you're facing, the lack of response, the disappointment, the frustration of feeling unseen, can either hold you back or propel you forward. Silence isn't meant to be a period of waiting. It's a creative process. It's your opportunity to build the life you've been neglecting, to cultivate a version of yourself that even you might not have fully seen before. So what does that look like in action? Start with your goals. Use this time to pursue the things that excite you, the things you've been putting off. Maybe it's hitting the gym and transforming your body, not because you're proving anything to them, but because you're proving something to yourself. Or maybe it's picking up a skill you've always wanted to learn, playing an instrument, diving into photography, or mastering a new language. Every step you take towards self-improvement fills that blank canvas with vibrant strokes. But it's not just about external achievements. Silence is also a time to reconnect with your inner self. Journal your thoughts, practice mindfulness, or spend time in nature. These moments of self-reflection aren't just about finding peace. They're about rediscovering who you are outside of someone else's opinion. When you focus inward, you create a sense of self that is grounded, unshakable, and magnetic. Think about it. A person who disappears into silence and re-emerges unchanged leaves no impression. But someone who uses that silence to evolve, to grow, and to create a life filled with passion and purpose, that's someone you can't ignore. The silence wasn't just a pause, it was the foundation of their transformation. Here's your affirmation for today. My silence is not an empty pause. It's a creative process that builds the best version of me. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments as a declaration of your commitment to growth. And stay tight, because next we'll dive into how to pair this transformative silence with emotional independence, creating a presence that doesn't demand attention, it commands it. Let's keep building. Number 5, the irony of detachment. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing to be missed is often the moment they start noticing your absence. It feels ironic, doesn't it? That the less you try to control their response, the more impactful your silence becomes. But it's not really about irony. It's about energy. When you detach, you're not withdrawing care or interest. You're simply reclaiming your focus. And that shift in focus is powerful. It changes the entire dynamic, not because you're trying to provoke a reaction, but because you're finally centering yourself. Detachment isn't about giving up, it's about letting go. Think of it like holding a balloon. The tighter you grip the string, the more tethered you become. Your energy stays locked on keeping that balloon in place, but you can't stop the breeze from pulling it away. The moment you let go of the string, though, something remarkable happens. You're free. The balloon might drift away, but you're no longer tied to the effort of holding on. You're no longer controlled by the fear of losing it. That's detachment, not the absence of care, but the presence of freedom. Here's the mistake so many people make. They equate detachment with indifference. They think letting go means they have to stop caring entirely, but that's not true. Detachment isn't about shutting down your feelings. It's about redirecting them. It's about recognizing that your energy is finite. Instead of spending it on someone who may or may not notice your absence, you pour it into the areas of your life that truly matter. It's about moving from control to creation. Ask yourself this: what parts of your life have been neglected while your focus has been on them? Is it your health, your passions, your career? Is it your relationships with friends and family, or even the relationship you have with yourself? These are the areas that deserve your energy, not the endless loop of wondering if they miss you or care about your silence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Detachment is about revoking the power you've given to someone else to determine your worth. It's about deciding that your life isn't going to revolve around their validation. Here's the beauty of detachment. When you stop chasing, when you stop hoping and waiting for them to notice, you redirect all that energy inward. And as you do, you start to thrive. You invest in your goals, strengthen your mind, and build a life that excites you. The irony is that this shift often makes your absence more noticeable, not because you're trying to force it, but because your transformation is undeniable. So how do you start detaching? Reflect on where your energy is going. Are you constantly thinking about them, checking your phone, or replaying old conversations? If so, it's time to reclaim that energy. Set clear goals, physical, mental, emotional, and start taking small steps every day to achieve them. Rediscover hobbies that bring you joy, surround yourself with people who value you, and create routines that ground you in your own strength. Detachment is freedom. It's not about ignoring them or pretending you don't care. It's about breaking free from the need for their attention to feel whole. It's about becoming someone who thrives, not because of their absence, but in spite of it. Here's your affirmation for today. I let go of control and focus on building a life that fulfills me. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments to claim your freedom and inspire others to do the same. And stick around, because next, we're diving into how to channel this detachment into purposeful action, creating a life so rich that their absence becomes irrelevant. Let's keep building. Number 6. Build a life that speaks for itself. What if your silence wasn't about creating longing? What if it wasn't about making them miss you or wondering why they haven't noticed? Instead, imagine your silence as a time to build something so magnetic, so extraordinary, that attention becomes irrelevant. What if your energy was no longer spent trying to be seen, but on becoming someone who naturally draws others in, not because you're demanding it, but because your presence speaks for itself? Think of a lighthouse. It doesn't shout to passing ships or try to prove its value. It simply stands tall, steady, and bright. Its light cuts through the darkness, guiding those who recognize its strength and dependability. That's the energy you should strive for, not one of chasing, pleading, or even waiting, but of being. Your silence isn't about calling them back. It's about shining so brightly that whether they notice or not, you illuminate your own path forward. Here's the truth. When your life feels like a blank page, their absence becomes glaringly obvious. You notice the void because you're not filling it with something meaningful. But when you focus on building a life that excites you, a life full of passion, purpose, and growth, their absence begins to shrink. It's not that you stop caring entirely, it's that the space they once occupied becomes filled with things that energize and uplift you. And that shift? It's transformational. Ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to become? Not for them, but for yourself. What does the best version of you look like? It's not about trying to create a version of yourself that impresses them. It's about creating a life that makes you proud. If you're still waiting for them to miss you, redirect that energy. Focus on becoming someone who wouldn't have time to notice whether they do or not. Start by prioritizing your passions. What's something you've always wanted to do but kept putting off? Maybe it's learning a new skill, starting a fitness journey, or diving into a creative outlet that brings you joy. These aren't just hobbies, they're investments in yourself. Every step you take toward growth is a stroke of color on the canvas of your life, making it richer and more vibrant. Invest in your personal growth. Read books that challenge your perspective. Take courses that expand your knowledge, or explore mindfulness practices that ground you in the present moment. Building a life that speaks for itself isn't about achieving external validation. It's about creating an internal foundation so strong that you radiate confidence and purpose. Here's the twist. The goal isn't to make them miss you. The goal is to build a life so fulfilling, so grounded in who you are, that their absence no longer feels like a void. When your days are full of things that bring you joy and meaning, you stop looking outward for validation. Ironically, that's often when people start to notice. When your energy shifts from seeking to thriving, remember this: a person who is genuinely fulfilled doesn't need to chase or prove their worth. They're like that lighthouse, steadfast, unshaken, and undeniably present. You don't have to demand attention when your life itself becomes a beacon of what's possible. Here's your affirmation for today. I focus on building a life that fulfills me, not on being missed by anyone. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments to claim your commitment to growth and self-discovery. And stick around, because next, we'll take this idea of building and show you how to translate it into a presence that doesn't just shine. It transforms the entire dynamic. Let's keep building. Number 7, your presence should be the lesson. Your presence should be the lesson, not your silence. So often we focus on whether or not someone misses us after we step away. But what if we're asking the wrong question? What if the real focus should be on what our presence taught them while we were there? The way you showed up, your authenticity, your strength, your kindness, that's what leaves a lasting impression, not the mere fact that you're gone. Your absence should reflect what they've lost, not what you've demanded. Think about this. A rare gem doesn't lose its value just because someone doesn't immediately recognize it. A diamond is still a diamond, even if someone treats it like a stone. Its worth is constant, unshaken by the opinions of those who fail to see it. And that's exactly how you need to see yourself. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. You just need to be valuable. And the people who matter, they'll see it, whether it's now or later. Here's the key shift. Stop trying to make people miss you. Stop hoping they'll wake up one day and realize what you meant to them. Instead, focus on the lesson your presence leaves behind. When they look back, let them see the calm you brought to their chaos, the stability you offered, the way you lifted them higher without asking for anything in return. Your absence should echo with the value you carried, not because you forced it, but because it was undeniable. The truth is, when someone doesn't recognize your worth, it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of their awareness. Some people simply aren't ready to appreciate the presence of someone who brings depth and substance into their lives. And that's okay. Your value doesn't diminish because someone fails to see it. You don't stop being a diamond just because someone treated you like glass. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." That's your guide. Focus on how you show up. Not for them, but for yourself. Are you grounded in your values? Are you living with purpose? Are you becoming someone whose presence leaves no doubt about their worth? When you answer those questions honestly and work toward aligning with them, you become unshakable. This isn't about being chaste. It's about becoming so complete in yourself that you don't need to be. When your value is clear, you don't need to prove it to anyone. You simply live it, and the right people will recognize it without you ever having to ask. So how do you make your presence the lesson? Start by living with intention. Be reliable, authentic, and confident in your worth. Create boundaries that reflect your self-respect. Pursue goals that excite you. Build relationships that uplift you. Dedicate time to things that bring you joy. When you show up fully in your own life, Your presence naturally teaches those around you what it means to live with purpose. Here's your affirmation for today. My value is constant, and my presence is the lesson. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments as a declaration of your worth and a reminder to others that true value doesn't need to be proven. And stay tight, because next, we'll explore how to channel this mindset into actions that make your presence not just a lesson, but a legacy. Let's keep building. Number 8, final wisdom, beyond silence toward mastery. Silence isn't about making someone miss you. It's not a strategy to manipulate their feelings or force them to see your worth. At its core, silence is about creating space, not for them, but for you. It's about stepping back so you can step into your power, so you can master yourself, your emotions, and your growth. When silence doesn't yield the results you expected, it's not a failure, it's an invitation, a call to stop waiting for their recognition and start becoming someone who doesn't need it. Think of silence as a cocoon. From the outside, it may look like nothing is happening. It's still, quiet, seemingly lifeless. But inside, transformation is taking place. A caterpillar doesn't stay in that cocoon forever. It emerges stronger, more vibrant, and ready to take flight. Your silence should be like that cocoon. It's not the end of something, it's the beginning of your evolution. But the transformation only happens if you use that silence wisely. If you just sit in stillness, waiting for someone to notice, the cocoon becomes a cage. But if you fill that silence with growth, self-discovery, and purpose, you'll emerge unstoppable. Here's the truth. When silence doesn't make them miss you, it's not about what you're lacking, it's about what they're unable to see. Their reaction doesn't define your worth. Your worth is defined by how you show up for yourself, how you build a life that excites you, and how you carry yourself with strength and self-respect. Stop measuring your value by someone else's attention. You don't need their validation when you're grounded in your own. Let me ask you this. What would happen if you shifted your focus entirely? If you stopped looking back, stopped waiting for the phone to light up, and started pouring all that energy into yourself? Imagine what you could build in that space: a stronger body, a sharper mind, a passion you've always wanted to pursue. Imagine creating a life so full, so magnetic, that their absence doesn't feel like a void anymore. That's the ultimate power move, not being missed, but being whole. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your silence becomes powerful when it's rooted in mastery, not manipulation. It's not about them anymore. It's about you reclaiming your energy, your focus, and your life. So here's the shift. When silence doesn't work, let it be your signal to rise, to create, and to transform. You don't need to be missed to matter. You don't need their acknowledgement to thrive. Build a life that speaks for itself, a life that reflects your growth, your purpose, and your inner peace. Here's your affirmation for today. I focus on becoming, not on being missed. Write it down, say it out loud, drop it in the comments as a commitment to yourself and an inspiration to others. And if this message resonated with you, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your silence isn't the end, it's the start of something extraordinary. See you in the next video.